Ladies and gentlemen, John Durham is going to utilize the Inspector General report to prosecute former FBI officials. Now, that would seem, when you hear that, you say, well, of course, that's going to be part of it. Why wouldn't he utilize the IG report to prosecute FBI officials? That's obvious. The question that everyone should ask is, well, why? What's in the IG report that William Barr almost certainly has right now? What's in the IG report that's almost certainly been done, finished? Perhaps it's being edited. Who knows what's keeping Michael Horowitz from giving the country the IG report? But they are looking at rules, protocol, guidelines, regulations, official, laws being broken. They're looking at how Alexander Downer's, a foreign source, a foreign informant, Alexander Downer, an Australian ambassador, how his hearsay and gossip, something the Democrats call intel, was utilized by the United States. And when I say the United States, I mean James Comey and Brennan and Clapper and Strzok. And look, when people say, well, you know what, the DOJ refused to, indict Strzok on leaking information, that's not the only thing he's done. So yeah, you know what, there was a recent report that alluded to Peter Strzok being one of the people who broke rules. But you got to understand, this is a litany, this is a all-encompassing U.S. Code. When I talk about, in my Federalist article, the actual statute they wanted to use against Trump that will be utilized against all of them, it's a grandiose, all-encompassing legal statute. That's what they tried to use against Trump. They tried to say that information from Alexander Downer, and information from the Steele dossier and Christopher Steele, and information from British intelligence, and information from the fact that there was a meeting with Don Jr., all of that, in addition to the DNC being hacked into, which we don't even know because CrowdStrike is the only company to look at DNC servers. CrowdStrike was outsourced by the DNC. Big conflict of interest there. Clinton funneled money through her law firm to pay for the Steele dossier. Big conflict of interest. But they're going to utilize the IG report in the manner that John Durham already utilized information on when he was prosecuting John Connolly. So this is interesting. I was looking at this trial ending for Boston FBI agent accused of mob ties by Fox Butterfield, May 24th, 2002, the New York Times. Now, this is when the New York Times was still an establishment mouthpiece, but it actually did reporting. New York Times, Washington Post, all of them stopped doing reporting and became overt extensions of the Democratic Party in 2015, 2016. But let's listen to this. John Connolly knew what his obligations were in limiting his... Okay, so this is John Durham, 2002. This is, he's prosecuting an FBI agent. He has a history, John Durham, of utilizing information pertaining to how government officials, in this case FBI agents, broke protocol. Excuse me. So, quote, John Connolly knew what his obligations were in limiting his personal ties to his organized crime informants, said the prosecutor John Durham, an assistant United States attorney. But he was on somebody else's team. Okay. So we'll get to that in a second. Mr. Connolly, 61, is accused of leaking information to his own informants that resulted in... Okay, so a whole bunch of... I apologize, excuse me. Okay. There was resulted in a whole bunch of people losing their lives. tipping off James Whitey Bulger, the head of a powerful crime family in Boston, about a secret 1994 federal indictment against him that enabled him to flee. The accusations were spelled out in 10 days of testimony by a parade of convicted organized crime figures, an extortion victim, federal judges, and Mr. Connolly's secretaries. So eventually, Connolly is now serving decades in prison because of all of this, okay? But he was on someone else's team. John Durham knows what's going on. He knows that James Comey, Andrew McCabe, and Peter Strzok, and many others were not on the side of the United States of America. It has nothing to do with partisanship. The difference here is that with Connolly, he was an FBI agent that got people that directly, his work directly led to people losing their lives. With Comey, Strzok, and McCabe, you have FBI agents whose work directly led to plunging the country into a new Cold War, to possibly, it could have altered the course of U.S. history. If they were successful in removing Trump, if they were successful in ousting a duly elected president, then they would have been successful on someone else's team. They are obviously working for Clinton. But when John Durham says John Connolly knew what his obligations were, but he was on somebody else's team, Comey, Strzok, and McCabe knew what their obligations were, and all the other FBI agents, but they were on Clinton's team. They were on Madam Cyberhack, the Golden Muumuu's team. They weren't on the side of the United States of America. Okay? They deceived FISA judges. They did not let FISA judges know that the dossier was purchased by Clinton. They also didn't let FISA judges know that they didn't verify Alexander Downer's claims, and they didn't verify the claims in the Steele dossier. They did not let FISA judges know that nothing was verified and it was purchased by Trump's direct political rival, Clinton. Now, simply saying in a footnote, yeah, it was purchased by somebody who, political rivals who want to dirt on Trump, is not the same as Clinton. He was running against Clinton. Clinton was the front runner. Clinton was always going to win, and we know that from the DNC and campaign emails that show a relationship between, almost a criminal relationship between the media and the Clinton campaign. We know that Bernie Sanders was cheated. We know that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. And the way they've spun it is, well, the Russians wanted you to know. But this is interesting. Goes on to say, okay, so Mr. Connolly's corruption began in 1976 when he accepted a 2-carat diamond ring worth more than $5,000 from Mr. Bulger, Mr. Durham charged. This relates to the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that McCabe's wife received. It was a stolen men rings. Okay, who was confessed to murder. Wow. The defendant knew from the get-go what this was about, Mr. Durham said. John Connolly knew what the name of the game was. So, you're talking about Mr. Durham said that since 1975, Mr. Connolly engaged in continuing conduct to protect James Bulger. Okay. And then Mr. Durham told jurors, if there is any single piece of evidence in this case as to what team John Connolly was on, it was the extortion in 1984 of a liquor business in South Boston from a young couple. Wow. She simply walked in. Wow. So there's a lot of things here that I don't even want to talk about because of YouTube policies. What happened in Boston and John Durham's role in prosecuting John Connolly should show everyone that he's not going to be duped by protocol, hiding behind regulation, hiding behind a person's post, hiding behind the fact that these are FBI agents and they can do no wrong according to the media. He won't play that game because he knows at the end of the day he's going to ask, what team are you on? Look, people, they're rightfully so, people are distraught and they're concerned about whether anyone's going to get indicted. Whether people get indicted before Trump wins or after Trump wins, Trump's going to defeat Hillary Clinton again in 2020. Clinton's running again. She's running again. I keep saying that. I'm going to say it every single segment. She's running again. Now, the debates tonight, and the whole thing's a sham to begin with. The Democratic debates were always even last time around. They weren't even as big of a farce as they are this time around. But here you have, I think, Matt House, a moderator. This is hilarious. Bernie Sanders, he's going to talk about democratic socialism. Okay. He not only accepted the fact that he was cheated, but he fomented the belief that Russia, don't get me started, I'm not going to even go there. He fomented the belief that Russia hacked the DNC to inform the country that he was cheated. How on earth, if let's say you believed in democratic socialism, and by the way, that was really wasn't part of his platform in 2016. He didn't even explain it. There was one debate where he was like, yeah, Democratic, I'm not a... And by the way, Ezra Klein of Vox tried to sabotage his campaign in 2015 when in their first interview, because Vox and the Daily Beast and the Washington Post, New York Times are extensions of the Democratic Party, Klein goes to Bernie, you're a socialist, right? Immediately said Democratic Socialist. But the reason was, at that point in time, the word socialist would have completely derailed his campaign. 2016 is far different from today, where the left is like, yay, socialism. Anyway, my point is, even if you believed, Bernie believes in greater government involvement, Medicare for all, fine. You're never going to get it by working within the Democratic Party. Like one political action committee, Justice Democrats, let's say, numerous legal claims have been made that allege that $1 million was funneled from Justice Democrats into 2 LLCs at the behest of Congresswoman Alexandria Cortez's campaign. Again, they're the biggest hypocrites in terms of dark money and in terms of state power and in terms of human rights and all of these things. But how do you get, let's say you're Bernie Sanders, you were cheated, you were the focus from 2 to 3 years of this hysteria over Russia. You allowed, if you're Bernie, you allowed this hysteria and this manic, this nonsensical fantasy to fester. You didn't stand up and say, yeah, you know what? It's irrelevant whether it was Russia or not. The fact that I was cheated shows that there are serious issues with the Democratic Party, but he didn't have the guts to do that. Trump, on the other hand, they tried to frame and set him up, and he is making it his life's mission for justified and righteous retribution. Okay? That's what Trump does. He fights back. But I don't get, what are you going to achieve from this debate? Is it going on now? I think it's is it already? Who cares? But what are you going to achieve from this debate? Everyone knows that Biden, the establishment, is the front runner, and there isn't a Bernie Sanders 2016 here. So when I was saying Bernie was going to win in 2016 or 2015, the Democratic primary, if it was a fair primary, it would have won. If the media and the superdelegates and the fact that Debbie Wasserman Schultz wasn't forced to resign because it wasn't fair and neutral, they were pushing for Clinton from day one, giving debate questions, having direct relationships with media, friendly journalists. I mean, you had a whole rigged system that even Elizabeth Warren said was rigged. And the fact that the Russians allegedly told us, that's a big problem. But I don't understand, what are you going to get from this if you're a Democrat? What are you going to get from this? You have the House. You've had the House since January. No Medicare for all bills are being championed by all these allegedly progressive politicians. So what are you going to get from this? This debate is like essentially meaningless. I mean, absolutely meaningless. But whatever. Look, Clinton is not going to. She's not going to enter now. She'll probably enter either November, October. But I just don't see what you get from this. It's such a farce. It is such a farce. Let's see this here. Is there a debate now? Who knows? Who cares? The point is this. John Durham has already prosecuted an FBI agent. He's already prosecuted an FBI agent who used his post, who used protocol for an illegal endeavor. He also says in a lecture recently, he warns against the use of informants. The FBI used Stephen Halper. They utilized Alexander Downer. They utilized Joseph Mifsud. And they utilized a dossier that was complete and utter nonsense. The rebuttal is, well, they had to investigate. They had to continue to investigate to see if they could protect the country from Facebook ads. John Durham is going to realize, he's going to know that that's not only a bunch of nonsense, but it is a criminal. It's a criminal endeavor to utilize government posts. It's a criminal endeavor to utilize, and it's the 18 U.S. Code 371. It's a that I talk about in my Federalist article. It's criminal endeavor to utilize your post as a government official, especially as an FBI official or director, to frame and set up Trump at the behest of Clinton. Even if she doesn't, even if you don't get a handwritten memo from Clinton, you know that you're utilizing a dossier she purchased, that Alexander Downer has ties to Clinton, that the Justice Department told the FBI, hey, you probably shouldn't use that. Bruce Orr already told the FBI you probably shouldn't use that. His wife was working at Fusion GPS. You have Bruce Orr's wife working at Fusion GPS. You have Andrew McCabe's wife getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from Terry McAuliffe. You have Peter Strzok and his lover, and they're both saying, we need to stop Trump, or he's saying we'll stop Trump. Okay? You have other FBI agents in the IG report come out, lower tier FBI agents saying, oh my goodness, they were upset Trump won. You have James Comey, who listed all of Clinton's crimes and said, gosh, she didn't mean to do it. And then he perjured himself under oath, and he wrote Comey memos that were leaked illegally. Illegally. So you have all of these people doing things that just happen to always benefit one side, one team. So whose team are they on? It's a question that John Durham asked once of a corrupt FBI official. He knew. John Connolly claims higher-ups let Whitey Bulger run wild. So John Connolly, like Comey, Strzok, and McCabe, like they're all turning on each other, he claimed that it was other FBI agents. It wasn't just him. So serving 40 years, John Connolly. Anyway, And then while he was in prison, he claims that other FBI agents turned a blind eye to Bulger. Look. This is all, at the end of the day, with this, it's not just the FBI Boston field office. This is the entire FBI utilized the full weight of the entire U.S. government against an incoming candidate. It's hard for me to imagine that the IG report, which will probably be benign in a lot of respects, and it'll probably be twisted and manipulated by media to say, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's hard for me to imagine that President Trump's going to make the same mistake twice. So when people say, oh, nothing happened, you gotta be patient. You got a year and a half before the election. Trump wins again, it's game over. And I think that the indictment of Clinton eventually will take place, because you can't have that type of overt criminality. It's not sustainable forever. I say this not because I believe that good always wins out in the end. I say this because it's not sustainable. Can't be that overt of a criminal. But whether it's before or after the election, people like Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, a whole bunch of them, people under these intelligence officials, they'll be indicted. Whether all of them or some of them, I'm not sure. But people are going to get indicted because Trump has made certain, he's continually stated, we can never let this happen again. We can never let this happen again. We can never let this happen again. So that, William Barr is kind of being diplomatic right now. He knows the time. He knows what's going on. John Durham is already, and the reason I did this segment is to kind of give you a little glimpse as to what John Durham has already done and said. And I think the IG report is going to give Durham all the ammunition needed to eventually indict people. Give me your thoughts below. 2020, after Democrats lose, they will be at their lowest point politically in terms of influence possible. And that's probably likely you'll see most of the indictments take place after the election. Give me your thoughts below. I'm hoping before the election, a whole bunch, but I'm thinking likely after the election, the majority of them. But give me your thoughts below. Thank you so very much. I think McCabe, probably before the election, tell you the truth. McCabe and Baker are already under criminal investigation. I explained in my last segment. McCabe lied under oath 3 times. 2 FBI agents. People have already had their lives upended because of that. Once. He lied 3 times under oath. Give me your thoughts. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment. Your support of my voice and my writing and everything is greatly, greatly appreciated. My writing was shared and talked about by Rush Limbaugh a couple weeks back. That is in the pinned comment below. Thank you so very, very much.